Kyoto was still on high alert. The Shinsengumi remained on standby at the Fushimi Magistrate Office through the year-end celebrations. I hoped that temper would calm, and the threat of war would fade away. One night as the end of the year was approaching, I'd gone outside to the inner yard of the magistrate to find Nagakura standing alone. I guess it wasn't something too out of the ordinary, but occasionally he'd look up at the sky above, sigh for a second, and then repeat the process. It wasn't too much like the Nagakura I'd known. It wasn't like I could pretend I didn't see him, however, so I found myself reaching out. Nagakura? Did something happen?
Oh. いや、何？ちょっと考え事をしててな。
Nagakura turned to face me, but his face seemed tired and dejected. He was clearly out of it. Normally, he'd have such boundless energy, but I guess everyone is entitled to days like these. Is it about the war?
いや、今回の戦のことじゃねえんだ。まあ、なんていうか、その。
It seemed like he had something else on his mind, and I shouldn't force him to talk about something that he didn't want to talk about. So, I decided to walk back in after ending our conversation when...
この間、三男さんが落ち水を配ったのは知ってるだろ？俺は、あんな薬のことは最初から認めちゃいねえ。自分があんな薬を飲んで力を得たり生き延びようとすることなんかも考えたことがねえ。そんなことは武士の男のすることじゃねえって思ってた。だから俺は受け取らなかった。
After he expressed these feelings, Nagakura sighed, rubbing his temples with his hands.
そのこと自体は後悔してねえんだ。けどよ、あの薬を否定してるってことは、平助のことも否定してるってことになるんじゃねえかってな。平助のことを許せるのか許せねえのか、許せないことになってるのか。俺にはよくわからなくなっちまってな。
Nagakura confessed his inner thoughts with me. The moral conflict he's articulating was the exact subject that was stressing me out too. I hated the serum, but couldn't deny it saved lives. No matter how much I turned this conundrum over in my head, I couldn't come to an answer. As the daughter of the doctor responsible for bringing the serum to you all, I personally couldn't feel right taking the serum. But I'm happy knowing that both Sanan-san and Heisuke are still alive because of it. So, I understand your struggle, Nagakura. But it's kind of got me thinking. I have to think of them in separate terms. The serum is the serum, and Heisuke is Heisuke. All I can say for now is, I want everyone to make the right choice for them. One they won't regret later. I thought it was totally in your nature to reject Sanan-san's offer. So if that sits well with you, then I think you made the right decision. And as far as Heisuke goes, I think things could still go back to the way they were before. I mean, you've known him for way longer than I have, Nagakura. You should know Heisuke more than me. Although, things are a little crazy, when it comes down to it. The two of you could be close again. Nagakura watched me intently as I spoke, and after a moment, he looked up with a bright smile.
薬は薬。平助は平助か。全くもってその通りだよな。 付き合いの長い俺が気づかないで君から教えられるなんて恥ずかしいぜ。
He scratched his head with his long fingers, as if trying to be coy. Then he looked me in the eye.
教えてくれてありがとうよ。あの薬は許せないし使う気もない。けど平助はダチだ。それでいいじゃねえか。この戦の蹴りがついたら平助と酒でも飲んでみることにするぜ。
Unlike the day state he'd seemed to be in earlier, Nagakura had returned to his normal self. His enthusiasm was infectious, and it ended up making me feel energetic too. Right.
さあ、寒いからな。中に入ろう。
With that said, Nagakura flashed another smile at me, and we walked back into the building. His footstep had a spring in them compared to earlier. I wonder if I really could be some help to him. I hoped that the weight of the stress in his heart would lessen, even if just a little. I prayed to the moon that shined in the night sky as I joined him on our walk back. We had welcomed the new year. The Shinsengumi spent days at the Fushimi Magistrate. Supposedly the shogunate army en route from Edo were going to stop by Osaka for preparations before they arrived in Kyoto. As a response, the Satsuma Chotsu, who had gathered forces in Kyoto, planned to intercept the shogunate army's path from Osaka. Fushimi was situated in between Osaka and Kyoto, meaning the fighting could come to us. Yawn. As words of these plans spread, psst, dead, there's a duck.
Yes.
As words of these plans spread, Satsuma Chotsu forces occupying Fushimi began fortifying positions in anticipation. The Fushimi magistrate, receiving word of the enemy's movements, buzzed with tension. Being around this atmosphere caused me to wonder whether it was appropriate for me to be around everyone after all. I grew increasingly concerned that I was just going to be a burden on everyone else. It was difficult to shake my doubts. But if no one had said anything to me directly, then presumably I was okay to stay. I decided then what was most important was keeping to my duties and staying out of the war. Once I'd accepted that mindset, I set out to prepare meals for each of the men. Since all the warriors were often preoccupied with their duties, gathering everyone to eat as a group became a luxury we could not afford. As soon as the men would finish their meals, they would often go right back to their posts. To making dinner simpler, they'd ask me to stick with preparing dishes like rice balls. Luckily, the food that was brought to the magistrate were varied and in large numbers on this day, so I put a lot of effort behind planning the dishes. As I was preparing everything, I was worried that I may have bitten off more than I can chew. Watching the warriors eat around me in silence only served to exacerbate my anxiety about the quality of the meal. Just as I was beginning to feel bad, Nagakura appeared from behind me.
あ、今日の飯もうまそうだな。焼き魚に味噌汁にこのものに。いい匂いだ。
Oh, please have as much as you'd like. I've even made enough for seconds.
ああ、いただきます。
Nagakura glowed, laughing as he piled the food onto his plate, because he fucking would. The way he was acting made me think he looked no different from his usual self. It made me smile.
どうした？俺の顔に何かついてるか？
No. I was... It's just that you're stuffing the food into your mouth so quickly that it made me happy.
美味しそうにって。実際うまいんだから当たり前じゃねえか。
Eh? The text gave him an action. What? That's new. Thank you. I just can't stop thinking about how stressed everyone is as they eat. I looked over at the table, most of the plates left untouched, and became self-conscious. Yeah, that's a little worrying.
大変な時だからこそたくさん食って精をつけなきゃいけねえと思うんだけどな。食ったって食わなくたって戦になったら戦わなきゃならねえのは変わんねえんだし。ってわけでおかわり。
I took Nagakura's rice bowl and scooped a second bowl's worth of rice for him. Here you go. No sooner than when the bowl was handed to him did he begin scarfing down the rice. Nagakura always seemed to be smiling, but I know he also felt the pressure of the incoming war. I mean, his best friend Heisuke became a fury. Chief Kondo-san was in critical condition, and Okita-san's sickness only looked to be getting worse, which sent the two of them to Osaka for treatment. It got so bad that they almost made him take the water of life as a last-ditch effort. Nagakura's stress had been piling, but he showed no signs of faltering. In fact, it seemed like he was even more chipper than usual, doing his best to brighten the mood. It just shows how strong he really is. Because I knew that Nagakura had already been dealing with so much, I didn't want to burden him with my own feelings, but there was something I'd been meaning to ask him. Nagakura, mind if I ask you something?
なんだよ。俺に答えられることなら何でも聞いてくれて構わねえぜ。
I paused for a minute to gather my thoughts. Then I spoke up. Do you think it's okay for me to continue living here? Nagakura stopped eating, and his eyes thinned as he tried to read into my intentions.
ここにいてもいいかってのは?
Well, you know, I was worried that everyone was growing tired of having me around and that I'd just be a burden. Nagakura quietly placed his rice bowl on the table. It seemed like this question was something he'd already asked himself. Both he and I sat for a moment in awkward, but not totally uncomfortable silence. Nagakura seemed conflicted about whether he should answer honestly or not, but he looked determined and answered.
こういう場面で慰めを言うのって勝負じゃねえから、正直な気持ちを言わせてもらうぞ。俺は大坂城に行った方がいいんじゃねえかって思ってる。
His answer was something I'd sort of expected to hear. It wasn't something I didn't consider. Me being here with absolutely nothing to offer the Shinsengumi? So, maybe it was better if I just left them. But realizing this case also made me realize that I didn't really have anywhere else to go. What could I say? Well, the guide says. Okay, I understand. Duck.
Yes.
Shit. I was ashamed by how much of a burden I'd imposed on everyone. Besides, with everything going on, if the demons were to appear, I don't think the Shinsengumi could afford to help. So, perhaps it's for the best that I depart from the Shinsengumi. Okay, understand. Tears almost poured out and I looked away. As soon as I'm done washing all of the kitchen, I'll prepare my things for Osaka. I gritted my teeth and tried to keep my composure. I was fighting back warm tears and I placed my hands on the floor as I bowed to Nagakura. Thank you for all of the moments we shared together. I can't thank you enough.
いや別に厄介者扱いしてるわけじゃねえんだ。つうか
It seemed, at last, that the cracks were beginning to show and his kindness became a source of pain. It's fine. I know. I can't keep relying on Nagakura anymore. I didn't want him to see my face, which was puffy from the tears, so I stood and turned around.
だから違うんだって。
Nagakura grabbed my wrist tightly. Nagakura?
Oh.
Even he was surprised by the forwardness of his actions, and he stepped back for a moment. Then, as if doubling down on his feelings, he held onto my hands, this time even tighter.
聞いてくれよ。俺は別に追い出してえわけじゃねえ。ただ、あのよ。
He seemed nervous, his voice quivering as he held me closer to his chest.
ここのすぐ近くに薩摩の連中が陣取ってやがるし、戦が始まったらここは最前線になっちまうだろ。だからその怖えんじゃねえかって思ってよ。
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared. The casualties suffered in war were horrific.
それにもともと俺たちに無理やり付き合わされてたようなもんだろ。最後まで付き合う義理もねえし、それでもし巻き込まれて死んじまったりしたら悔やんでも悔やみきれねえだろうし。だからいずれ俺たちから離れるつもりなら今がいい機会なんじゃねえかって思って。
After expressing how he felt, Nagakura slowly scratched his head, silently frustrated at himself.
俺はな、可愛い妹分が泣くのを見たくねえんだ。
That kind of hurts.
What?
Specifically, he said, cute little sister.
Oh my god.
He's still in denial!
泣くのも傷つくのも痛え思いしてるとこも見たくねえんだよ。もっと楽に幸せになれる道があるんだったら俺はそっちに行かせてやりてんだ。
Nagakura. It didn't seem like he liked how he phrased things, and he chewed on his lower lip anxiously. Almost as if almost as if he weren't truly aware of how he really felt about it. I feel like there needs to be a comma there. The duck agrees.
Yes.
Almost as if he weren't truly aware of how he really felt about it. The whole situation.
いや悪い。さっきのは俺の勝手な言い分ってやつだ。肝心の本人の気持ちを聞いてね。どう思ってんのか聞かせてくれねえか。このままここにいてえか、それとも。
I I looked at him straight in the eye as I slowly started to open up. You see, I know deep down that I can't do anything for you guys. If I continue to stay here, I will only be a burden on everyone. But even then, as I spoke, I noticed Nagakura warming me with his tender gaze. Perhaps my selfish desires were causing some trouble for him. But surprisingly, I realized what I really wanted all along was... I would like to continue to stay here, beside everyone.
そっか。
He seemed to sink deep into a sea of thoughts, and he closed his eyes slowly. The silence he created between us made me sit a little uneasy. I began to regret any of my concerns in the first place, and I felt so selfish for doing so.
そっか。
He repeated himself, but as he opened his eyes again, the word felt a lot more confident.
わかった。そこまで言うなら、俺も腹をくくろうじゃねえか。泣きそうな顔で頼むんだ。俺が味方になってやらねえでどうすんだって話だ。
Nagakura flashed a smile as bright as the sun, and he took me by the hand.
任せとけ。何にも心配いらねえ。ここにいてえなら、俺がちゃんと守ってやるよ。戦に勝つのは俺だけの力じゃどうにもならねえけど、女の子一人守るのはそんなに難しいことじゃねえからな。安心してくれていいぜ。
Are you sure about that? Are you sure it's okay for me to stay?
野暮は言うもんじゃねえぞ。男が一度決めたことだ。ドーンと任せとけって。ほら、指切りだ。そうすりゃ信じられるだろ。
Nagakura offered me his pinky. In response, I timidly offered mine back to him. This is gonna be a cute scene, isn't it? Then Nagakura wrapped our fingers tightly, and his finger felt warm and twined with mine.
指切り玄満。嘘ついたら針千本飲ますってな。
Ah, it is a cute scene. I'm a die but cute. His fingers seemed to transfer the warmth of his smile through my entire body.
大丈夫だ。
Nagakura never broke his promises. After spending all of these years by his side, I knew that my trust wouldn't go unrewarded.
だからそんな辛気癖がすんな。うまい飯作って、いつもの笑顔で待っててくれよ。
I think he would feel a lot better if I told him that it would all be okay. I nodded to his suggestions and I gave him a small smile. Ah, I got more cuter! In response, Nagakura replied with a gigantic grin from ear to ear.
よし、その顔だ。そうこなくっちゃいけねえ。じゃあ改めて。嘘ついたら針千本飲ます。指切った。
He shook our interlocked fingers and he let mine go. The way he had made me feel seemed to wash away all of my worries. I read that wrong. Thanks to him, my anxiety was melting away.
よし、そうと決まったら、ますます食って力をつけておかねえとな。おかわり。
His stomach is a pit. What? You're going to eat more? You're on your third one.
そりゃ食事は全ての基本だからな。いつも笑って過ごすためには食うことも寝ることも遊ぶこともおろそかにしちゃいけねえんだって。
Okay. Then I'll eat even more too. I tried to match his energetic tone, and it actually made me feel better. I knew that the Shinsugumi had been facing so many problems recently. But even with all that was going on, Nagakura gave me a sense of peace. Until the day comes that he realized he is better off living his life, I will continue to spend time with him, relying on him just a little bit longer.